Welcome to Around and Around, the OCD Circle. My name is Elizabeth, and I have been living with obsessive-compulsive disorder for over 60 years. I am not a therapist or a member of the medical community. I am just an ordinary person like yourself who will be sharing my thoughts and experiences with you, with the hope that you will feel less alone. If you don't have OCD, I hope you will learn some information that will help you understand this disorder better. Some of the topics I will be covering may be triggering for you as a listener. If so, I apologize in advance. Since I don't know what your triggers are, please refer to the episode summary in the show notes before listening to each episode. If at any time you feel like hurting yourself or ending your life, please call the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988 if you are in the United States. It is open 24 hours a day, and you will be connected with the nearest crisis center to receive immediate counseling and local mental health referrals. Now, on to today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome back to my podcast Around and Around the OCD Circle. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I hope that you have gleaned some good information from my previous shows, and I hope you enjoyed my interview with Tracy, who was a patient on the reality show The OCD Project. Tracy and I have plans to get together again in the future for future shows, so I hope you'll continue to join me each week. This podcast is uploaded on Monday mornings. Also, I want to remind you that if you'd like to contact me about the show, give me ideas for future topics, or if you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, just message me below at Around and Around the OCD Circle at gmail.com, and all of my social media links, including my new blog, are also linked in the show notes. Today, I wanted to talk about several topics. I want to talk about panic attacks and self-talk and a few other things that have been on my mind lately. I'm happy to say that I did fly to North Carolina in September, and as we talked about recently, I have a very big phobia on flying in airplanes, and I did exceptionally well. The week before my flight, I listened to a YouTube meditation hypnosis channel about the fear of flying, and it really helped a whole lot. And I'm not going to say that I wasn't scared on the flight, but I wasn't physically shaking. I was afraid on the inside, but I wasn't showing it on the outside. And I made sure that I sat near the wing of the plane. I could watch the little mechanisms move up and down, and I could tell that the plane was flying level or if it was going to change direction just by looking at the wing. That seemed to help me a whole lot. So for any of you who have a fear of flying, that's one of my tips. I think I was on like the 20th, 21st row, something like that. So no panic attacks on the airplane, thank goodness, and that's what I was afraid was going to happen. But I wanted to talk about a panic attack that I had this week. I got a chance last minute on Wednesday of this week to go see Pink in concert. She's like one of my favorite performers. I've seen her in the past, and I really wanted to go. And I got a discounted ticket because someone at the last minute couldn't go, so they gave me like $65 off the ticket, right? And I helped pay for parking, and I did buy some food and a drink. It was so expensive. Oh my gosh. Well, Brandi Carlile opened for Pink that night, and we sat down, and Brandi Carlile came out on stage, and I was having the beginning of a panic attack. And I started crying and shaking, and I was having trouble breathing. And we hadn't even gotten to the Pink concert yet. And I was just getting myself all upset. And so I finally, I texted my wife. She wasn't there. And I said, I think this was a big mistake. I should not have come. And I don't know what to do. And my wife said, well, why don't you just catch an Uber home? Just leave and catch an Uber home. Well, in my head, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I spent $100 of my well-earned money on this ticket. I spent $25 towards the parking, and then I spent $33 on a bowl of nachos and a Diet Coke. So altogether, if I would have got an Uber home, that could have been up to $50 at least, from downtown. I would have been spending probably in the range of $210 to $230, and I have already been there only 30 minutes. And that's what I was concerned about. It was the money. It didn't matter how upset I was. All I could think about was the money that I was going to cost myself. And so I finally talked to the friend who had taken me. She was sitting next to me, and nobody was really noticing it because everybody was singing and standing up and dancing and yelling and screaming, and nobody knew what was going on with me. But when she sat back down, I reached over and I said, I'm having a panic attack here, and if you look over and I'm not in my seat, that just means I went home. And she said, well, do you want me to walk you out to the street? And I said, no, I don't want you to walk me out to the street. I can make it out there. But she's like, well, I really don't want you to leave. Is there anything I can do? And so I was like, I don't think so. Well, she ended up, she held on to me for like 30 minutes. She rubbed my back, she stroked my hair, told me everything was going to be okay. And like 30 minutes later, I was feeling better. I was able to breathe and I wasn't crying as much. I'm not saying I didn't cry the rest of the night. I did, but it wasn't like uncontrollable and I have to get out of here. But looking back, what I think I should have done, isn't it always we say, well, I should have done this, I should have done that. Instead of focusing on the money that it was going to cost me to leave, I think what I should have done is I should have done some better self-talk. I should have said to myself, you are stronger than this. You can do this. You're going to sit here and you're going to get yourself together and you're going to do your breathing exercises like you've been taught. You're going to go with the feelings, go with the thoughts. You're not going to fight them. You're going to just let these feelings go and let the anxiety wash over you. And in about 30 minutes, you're going to feel a lot better. But instead, I was fighting it. I was fighting it so bad. And that's what we have to remember from doing cognitive behavioral therapy, that it's very important that we face our fears and face the anxiety, because all we do is make things worse. So I went through about an hour of, crying and shaking and having trouble to breathe, when if I just would have gone with it, I probably could have gotten myself out of it within 30 minutes time. I think I would have enjoyed myself more, and I would have a memory, a good memory, right? So the next day, of course, everybody's asking me, well, how was the Pink concert? And I wanted to answer them honestly and say, well, it totally sucked, because for me, that memory was not a great one. But when I would just say, well, she did great. She did great on stage, which is true. She did great. But as far as the experience, it was, I don't want to remember it. I want to remember the last time I saw her, when I was having fun and dancing and singing and really getting into it. I did not get into it at all. I just, I didn't. So I remember years ago when I was pregnant with my first child, she was born in June, so this was about February before I had her in June. I guess the hormones were really raging, and I went to see the musical Cats. And, back then I didn't have a lot of money, and we got seats way up in the nosebleed section. But for me to go to a Broadway show was just a once in a lifetime thing. I just didn't get to do it. And I remember sitting there the entire show just crying and shaking and miserable. And when I was asked if I wanted to leave, again, it was the money. I said, no, we spent all this money on these seats. I'm going to stick it out. And I still have terrible memories of that show. So we really do, we're our own worst enemies. I mean, do you agree with me? Like, are you your own worst enemy in times like these? And I'm also curious to know, like, when you have a panic attack, what happens to your body? What happens to your brain? Do you shake? Do you cry? Do you have trouble breathing? Do you have chest pains? Sometimes I have chest pains, and some people have them so badly that they actually think they're having a heart attack. I wouldn't say that my chest pains have gotten that bad, but yes, I do have chest pain sometimes. But let me know. Contact me and just let me know. I may put a little poll in the show notes and see, what you guys have to say. And this kind of brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk about. I was thinking the other day, will I ever be able to just not think of anything? I hear friends of mine say, like, they'll go to the beach, or they'll go to a park, or they'll go to a lakeside cabin, and they'll just sit and they'll just watch the sunset. And they don't think about anything. They just watch the sunset, or they're at the beach and they watch the waves and they don't think about anything. And I'm so jealous of them. I mean, do you ever get jealous of people who you consider to be like normal? To me, they're just normal and I want to be that. I don't think I can ever remember a time in my life when I wasn't thinking about something. You know how people always say, well, clear your mind, just clear your mind. And I'm like, what the heck does that mean? How can somebody clear their mind? That's got to be impossible. Has to be. I know that when I first started trying doing meditations, it was so hard for me. I thought maybe I had like attention deficit disorder or something, but I think it's coming from my OCD. It's like I can't just meditate and not think about anything. So when I do meditations, I focus on something. I have to think of something. And normally I think about when I've seen Deepak Chopra several times, and he's just amazing with meditations. And he always started off his meditation where you envision a red rose or color of your choice, I guess, and you imagine you're putting it up to your nose and you're smelling it. And the whole time you're smelling this rose, he's talking you into the meditation. And I can do that kind of meditation, but so how many of you can think of nothing? I mean, is there really such a thing? People say that they can just sit and think of nothing, but I don't think that's possible. Well, I just wanted to touch base with you and let you know that I'm here for you. This podcast is for all of you who feel alone in this disorder. I don't want you to feel alone. I want you to reach out in my Facebook group. That's linked below. You don't have to tell me your name. You can come in under a different name. It doesn't matter. Just let me know that you're there listening and that this podcast has reached you in some way and that you are learning something about me and my life and maybe taking in some information that's helpful to you. The main thing is I want you to know that you're not the only person in this world that has this disorder. You can manage this disorder. You can have a relatively, what we consider, normal life. You are going to have bumps along the road, but everyone has bumps along the road. We just don't have the OCD bumps that we have. And I think that's all I really wanted to say. But until my next show, I wanted to wish you all a wonderful week. Keep smiling and have an awesome week. Bye.